The marble floor beneath your feet is white. Not just any marble. The kind that takes decades of polishing before it reflects the sky like still water. It's cold. A cold that climbs through the soles of your feet, through the embroidered linings of your shoes, which are also white, with lotus flowers in satin, because you are wearing everything the ceremony requires at this exact moment. And the ceremony doesn't ask if you're cold. The ceremony doesn't ask anything. The ceremony simply exists, and you exist within it. There is incense in the air, sandalwood and musk, a combination you have never smelled before today, and will never forget for the rest of your life, which is your entire life. Because from this moment forward, you will not leave this place. You don't know that yet. What you do know is that there are at least 40 people in this room, and not one of them looks you directly in the eyes. They look at the floor, they look to the side, they look at the space just above your head. And that, though you can't yet put it into words, is the system's first instruction. The title you have just been given does not make this place your home. It makes it your most elaborate cage. You are 16 years old. Your last memory of your home in Manchuria is the smell of wet grass. What surrounds you is called the Forbidden City, though few people will say that name in your presence, and no one will say it too loudly. Its official name is Zijincheng, the Purple Forbidden City, because in Chinese cosmology, purple is the color of the North Star, the star around which the entire firmament revolves, and the Emperor, as the Son of Heaven, dwells at the center of everything that exists. The compound covers 720,000 square meters, 980 rooms, walls 10 meters high, surrounded by a moat 52 meters wide. It was built between 1406 and 1420 under the command of the third emperor of the Ming dynasty, Zhu Di, using the labor of 1 million workers, artisans and soldiers. 1 million. And since then, it has housed 24 successive emperors, each with his own harem, his own protocol, his own invisible networks of loyalty that court officials call virtue, and that are, in reality, pure politics executed in silence, behind folding screens, with smiles calculated to the millimeter. The reason you are here is simple. Your family belongs to the 8 banners of Manchuria, the hereditary military units on which the entire power of the Qing dynasty rests. That means every 3 years, when eunuchs from the Department of Internal Affairs travel through Manchuria to select concubines, your name appears on the list. Not because your family asked for it, but because the system demands it, and the system doesn't need anyone's agreement to keep running. The selection lasted 3 days. You entered through the Gate of Divine Prowess, the palace's northern gate, the same one used for workers, suppliers, and women destined for the harem. Not the southern gate, which is reserved for the emperor. There is a geometry of power in the architecture of this place that says everything before anyone opens their mouth. The first night, you stayed in a room with 83 other candidates. By the second day, 47 remained. By the end of the third, it was you and 12 others. Then a senior eunuch entered the room, carrying a tablet of imperial yellow lacquered jade, read the names aloud, and yours was the third. There was no applause, no celebration. Those who were not chosen simply left the room. Those of us who were chosen remained standing, in silence, while eunuchs assigned us a palace, a rank, and a court name. Your initial rank, noble lady. The lowest rank within the official system of imperial consorts. Your palace, the Palace of Eternal Fragrance, one of the 6 palaces in the western wing of the inner courtyard. Your court name, Lan, Orchid. And just like that, without further explanation, your life inside the system begins. The Forbidden City is divided into 2 halves that do not communicate with each other, except through the gate of heavenly purity. To the south lies the outer court, where the emperor governs the empire, receives audiences, signs edicts, convenes the Grand Council. That space is the real world. The decisions made there move armies, redirect rivers, determine whether there is famine or abundance in provinces you will never see. To the north lies the inner court, the Hugong, the rear palace. This is your world. A world of 300 women, 8,000 to 9,000 eunuchs, and a hierarchy as precise as the teeth of a gear. You will learn its rules in the first few weeks, through a palace tutor in her 50s, whom everyone calls Mistress Chen. She enters your palace every morning at 7, sits across from you with her back perfectly straight, and instructs you in a voice that never rises or falls. As though the centuries of protocol she carries in her memory have flattened all her emotions into something uniform. No peaks, no cracks. How to walk when the emperor is present. Short steps, no more than 6 inches, feet nearly parallel, shoulders perfectly still. How to sit in his presence, on the edge of the seat, never against the backrest, hands on your knees, never crossed. How to speak, always in the third person when referring to yourself. You never say, "I want." You say, "This servant humbly requests." Never, "I believe," but "this unworthy one dares to suggest." The language of the Hugong has no first-person singular. The first-person singular belongs only to the emperor, and his I is called Zhen, which means I, the only one. How to laugh without showing your teeth. If joy becomes uncontrollable, your hand must cover your mouth before it opens. How to cry, never in public. Grief is a private matter, managed inside your assigned palace, behind closed doors, before the one trusted maid you will have spent months patiently cultivating. How to dress. Your attire changes with the season, the day of the week, the nature of the ceremonial occasion. The formal audience robe, the Gaofu, weighs between 9 and 13 pounds, depending on its embroidery. The Liangbatu, the tall Manchu headdress with 2 sections of hair, parted and decorated with flowers and jade pins, requires between 45 minutes and an hour to assemble each morning, carried out by 2 specialized handmaids. You cannot do it yourself. You are not supposed to. The body of an imperial court woman does not belong to her. It belongs to the protocol. And the protocol of dress is so precise, it can humiliate you without anyone saying a word. Bright yellow, imperial yellow, belongs exclusively to the emperor. You may wear cream yellow, grayish yellow, ochre. The difference between these shades is known by everyone in the Hugong and by no one outside its walls, and that is exactly its purpose: to create a language that only exists within these walls, one that turns every color error into an instantly visible transgression. You will also learn the geography of the system, which is the geography of power, and it works as follows. At the top sits the Son of Heaven, the Huangdi, the Emperor. His will is literal and absolute. He can order the execution of anyone in the empire with a lacquered jade tablet and his seal. He can redistribute entire provinces. He can decree famine or abundance for millions of human beings with the stroke of a document. And yet, he cannot choose what he wears in the morning, because that is decided by the ritual of the Department of Vestments, 300 years old and unchanged since then. He cannot choose what he eats, because that is decided by imperial dietitians, by the poison guard who taste every dish before it reaches his table, and by the lunar calendar that determines which foods are auspicious on any given date. He has 3,000 servants, and not one of them looks him in the eyes. That too is part of the system. Below the emperor is the Empress Dowager, the mother of the Son of Heaven, the only woman in the palace to whom the emperor owes reverence. If she is living, her power is informal but absolute. If she has died, her absence has left a vacuum of authority that someone will fill, and that someone will be the cause of the most silent and most lethal war you can imagine. Below the Empress Dowager is the Empress Consort, the Huangho, the official wife. She is called the Mother of the World, even if she has never given birth. Her palace is the Palace of Earthly Tranquility, on the central axis of the inner courtyard. She presides over the Hogong. She determines ranks. She allocates resources. She holds direct authority over the concubines, handmaids, and eunuchs of the rear palace. In theory. Because the official empress is not always the emperor's favorite, and the system is built on that very contradiction. Below the empress, there is one imperial noble consort, then 2 noble consorts, then 4 consorts, then 6 imperial concubines, then an unlimited number in theory of imperial ladies and noble ladies. You stand at the bottom rung of this system, noble lady, Lon, orchid. And between the rung where you stand and any rung you might someday reach, there is a chasm measured in years, in favors, in male children, and in the deaths of other women before you. You do not yet know how long it will take you to understand that climbing this system is not a reward. It is a trap with more curtains. The first months have a particular texture you will never find the exact words to describe. It is the texture of waiting. Of a wait with no horizon, no deadline, no clear object. You wait to be summoned to the Hall of Mental Cultivation, the Emperor's private palace, where he studies, rests, and receives at night the women he has chosen. The mechanics of that selection are also part of the system. Each night, a senior eunuch presents the Emperor with a silver tray holding small wooden tablets. Each tablet bears the name of a woman from the harem. The Emperor turns face down the tablet he selects. The eunuch takes it, goes to the corresponding palace, and announces that the woman has been chosen for that night. That woman is then bathed, perfumed, wrapped in silk, and escorted to the chambers of the Son of Heaven, arriving wrapped in an animal pelt, carried on a eunuch's back, in complete silence, because no one must know which door she enters or what time she leaves. The act itself also has its protocol. The eunuch will record the date and the consort on an official tablet, not for the sake of romance, but so that if there is a pregnancy, there is an irrefutable record that the child belongs to the Son of Heaven. The first weeks your tablet is not turned, not the second week, not the 5th. This is not unusual. The harem at its fullest holds nearly 200 active women, and the Emperor's time is a resource scarcer than jade. But the system knows that waiting is also a tool. Because the woman who waits learns to need what she is waiting for. And when the night finally comes, when your tablet is turned, you will have spent enough silent nights inside your small palace that the moment will feel, for one brief and mistaken instant, like freedom. You will understand that much later. For now, you live inside the rhythm. The rhythm of the Hogong is divided as follows. You wake before dawn, when the Beijing air still smells of frost and coal. 2 handmaids enter your room without knocking, because a handmaid who knocks before entering is a handmaid of lower rank who has not yet been properly trained. Yours no longer knock. They bring hot water in a silver basin. They bring the Jade Cosmetics tablet with that day's pigments. They bring the first outfit of the morning, which is different from the afternoon outfit, which is different from the evening outfit. Makeup takes 20 minutes. The base is rice powder, white. Your cheeks are tinted with ground rose petal rouge. Your eyebrows are drawn with a sable hair brush in a precise curve that shifts with the season's fashions. And this season's fashions are set by the Emperor's current favorite consort, not you. Your lips, vermilion red only at the center, to create the illusion of a smaller mouth, because a small mouth is a sign of virtue and restraint. The Manchu headdress, the liangbatu, begins with your hair pulled completely taut, gathered over a horizontal wooden frame. Then 2 sections of hair are spread to either side, each one decorated with jade hairpins, silk flowers, and coral ornaments. The total weight of the finished headdress is between 14 and 21 ounces, and you will wear it until nightfall. There is no comfortable sleeping position with it on, which is why you will wear it until night, and the following evening it will all begin again. Breakfast arrives on 18 separate dishes. This sounds lavish. And it is, in terms of quantity. But you cannot choose any of the 18. The palace dietitian has determined what is auspicious for your constitution, based on the season and the lunar calendar. Eat too much of one dish, and the system logs it as a character flaw. Eat too little, and the system reads it as a sign of illness, which triggers a 3-day medical inspection, during which you cannot receive visitors and cannot be chosen by the emperor. From 9 to 11 in the morning, studies. Mistress Chen, or her replacement when she falls ill, announced with no advance notice, enters. You learn calligraphy, which in Imperial China is not a decorative skill, but a direct indicator of culture and character. You learn the Confucian classics, the Book of Rites, the Book of Changes, the Analects. You memorize them quietly, because a woman of the Hugong who quotes the classics in front of witnesses without being invited to do so commits a transgression. Knowledge in this place is a weapon you must keep concealed. From 11 to 1, embroidery. Embroidery is mandatory not because the palace needs more tapestries, but because embroidery teaches patience. And patience, in the Hugong, is the most valuable virtue of all, because it is the only one the system cannot give you. It has to come from within. The woman who loses her patience in the Hugong makes mistakes. And mistakes here don't cost a reprimand. They cost rank, palace, and in some cases, your life. In the afternoon, if the season allows, there is a walk through the Imperial Garden, 12,000 square meters of designed landscape occupying the far north of the inner courtyard. There is a 400-year-old pine tree at the center. There is an artificial lake whose water is replaced every 3 days. There are contemplation pavilions where you are meant to sit and find peace in the beauty of the place. And sometimes, yes. Sometimes there is a moment between the counted steps and the sideways glances and the weight of the headdress, when the sun hits the water a certain way and the garden simply exists, without protocol, without hierarchy, and that lasts exactly as long as it takes one of the handmaids to remind you that there is an audience in 20 minutes. 8 months have passed when your tablet is turned for the first time. The eunuch arrives at the Palace of Eternal Fragrance around 10 at night. He knocks 3 times on the lacquered wood of the outer door. The handmaids are in motion before the 3rd knock finishes sounding, as though they have spent months rehearsing for this moment. Because they have. You are bathed in water steeped with peony petals, perfumed with osmanthus essence. Wrapped in a pale yellow silk, the system calls the color of waiting. Before you leave, the senior handmaid looks you directly in the eyes for 1 second, which is itself a small violation of protocol, and says in a very low voice, "The ornament in your hair is wild wisteria. It's my favorite flower, nothing more." But it is the first time in 8 months that someone has spoken to you as though you are a complete person. You will remember it for years. What happens in the chambers of the Son of Heaven you will not describe. Because the system won't allow it either, and because what you discover that night is something closer to a transaction than to anything you have a name for. He is 42 years old. He is courteous. He observes the protocol with exact precision, which at its core tells you something about the nature of this system. That even the man at the top is trapped within it. That the difference between him and you is not that he is free, and you are not. The difference is the size of the cage. You return to your palace before dawn, wrapped again in the animal pelt, in silence, the same way you arrived. Your tablet is turned 3 more times over the following 4 months. On none of those 3 occasions is there anything resembling intimacy. The system has designed the encounter to exclude intimacy with the same precision it has applied to everything else. And then, in the 13th month of your life inside the Forbidden City, the Imperial physician enters your palace on a Tuesday morning, presses her fingers to your wrist for a long time, and says, her face expressionless, that this servant has the honor of reporting signs of pregnancy. The system activates immediately, not because anyone cares what you feel, but because a potential male heir is the scarcest and most valuable resource in the Hugong, and the Hugong knows exactly how to respond to that resource. In the following weeks, the Palace of Eternal Fragrance receives a furniture renovation you did not request. 2 additional handmaids arrive whom you did not choose. A new dietitian arrives, replacing the previous one without explanation. And then, and this is what surprises you most, the Empress Dowager arrives, having not set foot in your palace in the 13 months prior. She enters with 12 eunuchs and 4 handmaids of her own, sits across from you, holds your gaze for a prolonged moment, and says something you are not yet fully able to decode. That she hopes the fruit will be sweet. You do not yet know that phrase is a warning. Your rank is raised from noble lady to 2nd rank noble lady. The material benefits are specific and codified. You receive 4 additional candles per week. Your winter fabric allowance increases from 6 to 9 meters of satin per season. You are entitled to 3 handmaids instead of 2. Your daily food ration rises from 18 dishes to 23. And then, what the system never told you directly, but which is now beginning to become visible, starts coming into focus. The official Empress consort has gone 12 years without conceiving. The 1st rank noble consort gave birth to a daughter 3 years ago. You are the 3rd woman in the Hugong who is currently pregnant. The other 2 have been in the palace longer. They have spent more time weaving their networks of loyal eunuchs, informant handmaids, and alliances with the officials of the Department of Internal Affairs. There is something Mistress Chen, never explained to you directly, but that you are now beginning to understand in the silence of the nights. The Hogong is not a place where women wait passively. The Hogong is a board where women play, and the rules of the game are invisible but absolute, and the price of losing is determined by no one in particular. It is determined by the system. You do not know that the first rank noble consort has 3 handmaids who also serve in your palace. You do not yet know that one of them watches you without you seeing her while you eat. The system responds to the pregnancy with more precision than you have seen in any other aspect of life in the Hogong. Physicians examine you every 4 days. Purification rituals are performed in the Palace of Earthly Tranquility in your name. Offerings are made at the Taoist temple in the Imperial Garden before the goddess Nuwa, and Manchu shamanistic offerings are made in the East Room of the Kuning Palace, where Manchu priests keep ritual fires burning around the clock. The system wants that baby to be born. It wants the child alive, male, and healthy. What the system will want from you after that depends on other variables you cannot yet see. In the 7th month, you have a brief and absolutely calculated conversation with the first rank noble consort, the woman 2 ranks above you. Her name is Rong, which means prosperity. She has been in the Hogong for 9 years. She knows exactly how to tilt her head so that it reads as a gesture of respect while she is actually measuring the distance between you and the nearest exit. She offers you red date tea, which is the tea given to pregnant women. It is accepted on your behalf by a handmaid because you cannot accept directly from her hand without committing a breach of protocol. And then Rong smiles at you with a voice that could pass for perfectly warm and says that she hopes the child will be strong. In that moment, without being able to explain why, something inside your chest tightens. You will understand it years later, when it no longer surprises you that the system builds the precise conditions for war and then prohibits open conflict. He is born in the month of cherry blossoms. It is a boy. The imperial physician announces it before washing him, because the system requires that information before anything else. The senior eunuch is already at the door. The Department of Internal Affairs has already begun drafting the rank promotion decree. The Son of Heaven will receive the news before the child has opened his eyes for the first time. Your rank, 4th level consort. Your allowance increases to 28 daily dishes. Your palace will be expanded with 2 additional rooms. You will be entitled to 6 handmaids and 1 personal eunuch. Your son will spend his mornings with you in the palace until he turns 3. After that, the system will transfer him to the prince's palaces in the northeastern wing of the inner courtyard, where imperial tutors will begin his education. The relationship between you and him will cease to be a relationship between mother and son, and become a relationship between a consort and the prince she bore, which is not the same thing. It was never the same thing. That too is part of the system, and the system did not ask your permission to design it that way. Time in the Hugong is not measured in years. It is measured in reigns, in pregnancies, in rank promotions, in deaths that no one investigates because the system has no mechanism for investigating what happens inside its own gears. You turn 20 and have spent 4 years in the Hogong. Your rank is 3rd level consort. Your son is 3 years old and has been transferred to the prince's palaces. You see him during family audiences on the 1st and 15th day of each month, which last exactly 90 minutes, and during which there are always at least 8 people present. In those 90 minutes, he calls you his revered mother, and you call him His Highness the Prince. Nothing in the protocol allows him to simply call you Mom. By 22, you understand something no one explained to you the day you arrived. That the women who last in the Hugong are not the most beautiful or the most intelligent. They are the ones who learned first how to be indispensable without being threatening. To appear docile when there are witnesses, and to be absolutely ruthless when there are none. To build networks among the eunuchs, the only ones who move freely between pavilions, and are therefore the only possible messengers in a system that prohibits unannounced visits. To cultivate the dietitians, the only ones with access to your food. To notice which handmaid watches you with too much attention when she thinks you aren't looking. And to do all of this without appearing to do it at all, because the woman in the Hugong who is perceived as ambitious is also the woman in the Hugong who wakes up on a Tuesday, having been stripped of her rank, with no explanation given. You already know that. What you still don't know is how much it has cost you to know it. In the 10th year, the Son of Heaven falls ill. He falls ill with the characteristic slowness of men in their mid-40s who have spent too long indoors, eating what others decide, sleeping when the protocol permits. The illness has no clear name at first. The imperial physicians use terms referring to imbalances of the 5 elements, excess yang, deficiency of qi. Officials of the Grand Council meet in the outer court twice a week. The incense at the Taoist temple in the Imperial Garden burns at 4 times its usual volume. And in the Hugong, something that was always present now becomes absolutely visible: the future. Or more precisely, the question of who will control the future when the current Son of Heaven ceases to be one. Your son is 13 years old. There are 5 other princes with a viable claim. The Qing dynasty's succession system, established since the Yongzheng reign, does not operate by birthright, but by secret designation. The emperor chooses his successor in secret, locks the name in a sealed lacquered box hidden behind a panel in the audience hall, and does not reveal it until his death, or does not reveal it at all, which generates a years-long war of positioning in the Hugong that is completely silent, because the system has been designed to have no mechanism for open conflict. Noble consort Rong, who has now spent 19 years in the Hugong, has a 15-year-old son studying the classics with the palace's finest tutor. A tutor she secured through the eunuch network she spent her first 4 years in the palace building. You cannot say exactly when you began to see her as the primary obstacle, but at some point, without any dramatic moment, without any revelation, that understanding was simply there, accumulated like dust on the rafters of a palace no one ever cleans. The emperor dies in the 12th year of your life in the Forbidden City. He dies in the Hall of Mental Cultivation, surrounded by eunuchs, imperial physicians, and 3 officials of the Grand Council, the only men with access to that space. The news reaches the Hugong through a minor eunuch who walks the corridors of the Western Wing, ringing a bronze bell, which is the signal for morning. The instant that bell sounds, every woman in the Hugong who has spent years positioning herself for this moment begins the transition to the system's next state. The sealed lacquered box hidden behind the panel in the audience hall contains the name of a 16-year-old prince. It is not your son. The system absorbs your position with the same mechanical efficiency with which it absorbed your arrival. You go from third-level consort to dowager consort, a title that sounds honorific, but means in concrete terms the following. You may never remarry. You may not leave the Forbidden City, except in cases of first-degree family death approved by the Department of Internal Affairs. You may not wear yellow in any shade. Your daily dish allowance drops from 28 to 16. Your palace remains the same, but 2 of your 6 handmaids are reassigned to higher-ranking consorts. Your son is now a third-rank minister, assigned to a province in the northwest that you cannot travel to. You will see him at family audiences on the 1st and 15th day of each month for 90 minutes, with at least 8 people present. And the system continues. There is a new concubine who arrived 3 months ago through the Gate of Divine Prowess, the same gate through which you arrived. She is Manchu, she is 16 years old, and her court name is May. Plum. You see her one Tuesday in the Imperial Garden, walking with Mistress Chen, who has not visibly aged since the day she first entered your palace to instruct you in how to walk, how to sit, how to laugh without showing your teeth. The girl walks with short steps, no more than 6 inches, her feet nearly parallel, her shoulders perfectly still. And she looks at the garden with that specific mix of awe and disorientation that you also had when you arrived, and no longer have, because the system took it from you a long time ago, which is the same as saying the system turned it into something else, though you're not entirely sure what. There is a 400-year-old pine tree at the center of the garden. There is a lake whose water is replaced every 3 days. The girl stops for a moment in front of the lake and looks at the water, and in that moment, there is something in her posture that is completely human, completely her own. Something that has not yet been shaped by the protocol. Within a year or 2, there will be nothing of that left. And the understanding that comes to you as you watch her makes no sound. It is neither sadness nor relief, nor any of the things the system also does not allow you to name directly. It is more like the recognition of something you have known for years without ever finding the exact way to say it. That the system does not need malice. It does not need villains or conscious victims or grand conspiracies. It only needs each piece to occupy its place, each woman to learn the rules of the piece she is, and for those rules to be passed from generation to generation through tutors who did not choose this work either. And for no one, at any point in the gears, to have to want the outcome for the outcome to happen anyway. There is no dramatic moment. There is no revelation. The system does not need you to be happy. It only needs you to exist. And that, without anyone deciding it, without anyone ordering it, without anyone needing to understand it, is exactly what you will keep doing. The girl's name is May. Plum. She is 16 years old, and she has just entered through the Gate of Divine Prowess. And the system continues, unhurried, unbroken, requiring no one's understanding in order to keep running.